What do you think I was doing?
Rose pruning.
Blackberries. I haven't pruned them out of my backyard in 4 years. And I was wondering why I couldn't see the base of the trees anymore.
Oh, you gotta sign it. One more. She was drawing her pen. How you doing? Living the dream.
No, it's all good. All good.
Awesome. I'm happy to hear that.
Get ready for a big weekend in the center, you know?
Yeah, no. The big weekend. John here tonight? John is calling in. He's on the phone as we speak.
Get done to dusting then.
Yeah. So we should sign in for John because he is participating. We should make a note there that John is calling in on that.
Tell John we're forging her his name.
Maybe get ready for the great train robbery or something.
There's train robbery this weekend. I'm not working, but
Yeah, duly noted.
Okay, you all ready, Dustin?
I'm doing the grocery Saturday and then Sunday driving up to
Good evening. Today is Wednesday, July 24th, 2019. I'd like to call this City Council meeting to order. If you could all please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Could I have the roll call?
Councilmember Boff.
Here.
Councilmember Stimmel.
I'm here.
Councilmember Williams.
Present.
Councilmember Strobehn.
Here.
Councilmember Cerveny.
Here.
Mayor Thornton.
Here. Next on the agenda is the consent agenda. If there's no changes to be made, can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I move to approve with a date correction. And that correction appears on the minutes of the previous meeting. It's incorrectly entered as June 26th.
Okay, it's been corrected on the agenda on the screen, so it's been corrected. Thank you.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Next is the mayor's report. I do have a few things this evening I'd like to share. First of all, I just want to mention that my next Mayor's Town Hall will be Wednesday, August 7th. They begin at 6:30 in the evening, and they're always at the Public Works conference room. So everybody's invited. They're an informal meeting, and I'd love to see you all there. Next, I just want to mention that this past Saturday, July 13th, was the 17th annual Miss Teen La Center pageant, and I want to congratulate the newly crowned Miss Teen La Center Court. The Queen is Skylar House, Princess Leah Lee, Princess Jocelyn Greg Porter, Princess Dinah Hines, and Princess Anastasia Singringer. So congratulations to them, and just want to thank all the volunteers that help put on that event here every year at Sternwheeler Park. So yeah, it was a great event. And then also to mention that this coming weekend is our Our Day celebrations, the Center Steamboat Our Day celebration. It actually begins Friday evening with movies in the park. That'll start at dusk, and they will have concessions there, as well as I think some refreshments that'll be available. And then on Saturday, of course, we'll have the parade starting at 10 o'clock. The 5K race will begin at 8 o'clock in the morning, and it'll be a full day at Holly Park with all the vendors and people participating. So hopefully we'll see a lot of people out at that enjoying the day here in the center. That's all I really have this evening. So next we have the attorney's report. Mr. Cairns.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have two short related items, of course, all pertaining to our favorite appeal. as I mentioned in the past, every 6 months the growth board is supposed to check back with the county to see how it's doing on complying with its original order from 2017 now? It's been a while, which is under appeal at the Court of Appeals, as you know. And I think it's gone through 3 episodes of this, and of course, because it's under appeal, the cities involved have not come into compliance with the growth board's original order. And so we, cities, moved to stay this kind of 6-month compliance check. And the day after the last city council meeting, the growth board actually granted the motion to stay any further compliance review of the 3 issues that affect the center. So we can stop with the fire drill every 6 months. So there's that. And also, a few months ago, when was this? It was in April. We worked with Clark County to put together, the growth board is constantly looking for the county to do something in response to its order with regard to these Ridgefield and La Center, who we took in, both cities took in a certain amount of land that was previously ag land, was de-designated, incorporated inside the urban growth area, and then annexed pretty quickly. And so the county adopted an interim ordinance that kind of spelled out the evidentiary basis for why this land, these acres, for both cities, was deemed appropriate to meet job, in the case of La Center, job-generating land to correspond with the population, residentially zoned land, and the population growth projections that were adopted by the county for La Center. And so that was the reason why this acreage met these growth projections for a number of jobs, 1 job per household, number of households, residentially zoned land. You see how this all kind of fits together. So what the county did in this interim ordinance is kind of come current on housing demand, house residential generation, job generation, kind of where the things are, and kind of verified, validated those original statistics that were in the record from way back when, 5 years ago, when the county adopted this thing. So the county adopted this as an interim ordinance. The future-wise went ballistic about this, that this was kind of a kind of slick deal that avoided all the public process. It didn't. It was an interim ordinance. And so what we've proposed, and the county has agreed, is to go, and now that there's this stay in place, we're all kind of waiting for months for the Court of Appeals to run this ordinance as a conventional county ordinance through the Planning Commission and on up through the Board of County Councilors. So I can send you a copy of the interim ordinance. What it does is it provides a pretty comprehensive chronology of the planning assumptions and statistics that justified this entire growth area expansion consistent with the Growth Management Act. So it does kind of explain how it's supposed to work, how expansions of growth areas are supposed to happen, upon what kind of evidentiary basis. And then it also explains the legal reality that once annexed, the county loses all jurisdiction to do anything about that land because it's now within an incorporated city. So even if the county were inclined to effectuate the growth board's order, it couldn't. This land is outside of its jurisdiction. It's within the city. So I can send out a copy of the interim ordinance, but that process should get underway during the course of this summer. And this basically the same ordinance may be brought current because of the developments that are underway right now, moving dirt right now, move forward through the legislative process at the county. Does that make sense? Any questions about that or anything else that matters?
I'll take a copy of that if you can. And
Yes.
then, didn't we have a court date or something that was set for sometime in July on this Court of Appeals or something? If I remember correctly?
Yes, Court of Appeals argument happened. We had our 15 minutes in the sunshine. And I wasn't there. I don't think anyone, there was a big wreck on I-5 that day.
Mm-hmm.
So everybody was delayed in getting to the court in Tacoma, and they delayed the argument until the afternoon. So it happened. It wasn't kicked over because the next open court date was in October. So everyone moved heaven and earth to get there by 1:30. The argument happened, and it went pretty well. So it's
Any outcome from that argument, or do we have to wait for a long period of time?
a long period of time. It's the Court of Appeals, so it's a panel of 3 judges. You know, they came in having read the briefs, and there were, I think, 8 briefs total on this case, with opening briefs, response briefs, and reply briefs from all the various petitioners and respondents involved. 15 minutes per side, so total half an hour, and they took it under advisement at the end. They'll issue an opinion hopefully within a year. We're hoping early 2020.
All right.
I mean, this is a 1,000 points of light appeal, and the briefs themselves are like this high, and so it's not like a traffic ticket. That's easy to tell. It's super complicated, and land use cases in particular are something that is a very particular expertise that most appellate judges, every time they get a land use case, kind of have to bone up on to learn the fundamentals. So it's we're hoping for spring.
Okay.
That would be optimistic in my view. So, stand by. Get comfortable. That's all I have.
Thank you. Any other questions for the attorney? Okay, thank you. Next are council comments. Councilmember Boff.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. If you had seen the Columbia over the weekend, there was a nice insert in there promoting various activities going on in Clark County. There was one page in particular that referenced the center in the Our Day Steamboat Festival. There's a little bit of history on here and a couple of photographs of the old steamboats. I was really pleased to see this kind of publicity out there. If any of you would like a copy of this, please let me know, and I can send you an electronic copy if you'd like to have that. And then in the Reflector, today's Reflector, there's also a full-page promotion of the Our Days festivities coming up. So I think we're getting real good publicity this year for that event. I'm looking forward to it. Looking forward to the parade and the car show and the exhibits in the afternoon. And so it'll be nice to see all of you join us out there. Okay, thank you.
Great. And I should also mention, and I neglected to do it in my opening comments, but the city of the center, we will be having a booth at Our Days this year, and actually our public works crew will have one of our vehicles in the parade as well. So yeah, be sure to stop by our booth at Holly Park, and we'd love to visit with you. Thank you. Councilmember Stimmel.
No comment. Thank you.
Thank you. We can definitely hear you, John. Okay, Councilmember Williams.
Thanks, Mayor. I want to thank the town. We did an excellent garage sale weekend. That was a lot of fun. I had so much junk in my yard, and it still was there, but it was still fun. Killed it with for $80, you know. No, it was great to see a lot of people come in town and it's picking up popularity, and I'm looking forward to this weekend, specifically the car show, going to that. I will have an entry in the car show, but it won't be a motor street vehicle, so it'll be something different. And then last but not least, I'd like to wish Councilmember Boff a belated happy birthday. Congratulations on making another lap around the sun. He just celebrated another anniversary of his 29th birthday.
Oh, man.
That was supposed to get around.
Well, it did.
Thank you.
That's all I have, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilmember Strobehn.
Nothing tonight.
Okay. Councilmember Cerveny.
I would just like to encourage everyone to step on down to the Our Days event. At least make yourself present at one or two of the activities that go on throughout town and introduce yourself, meet some new neighbors and friends, and have a good time.
Great. Thank you. Okay, next on the agenda are staff reports. We do have 2 staff reports this evening. The first one will be presented by Community Development Manager, Contract Community Development Manager, Mr. Jeff Swanson.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Council. And Mr. Bailey, if you could put the staff report up on the screen. We've changed the format a little bit, playing around with this to try to get more.
Is this the one you want first?
Let's get the map up. Not that. So if you go to the first report you had up, scroll up and just, here, maybe I could do it from here. That map right there. Okay. So in your packets, you'll see there's a spreadsheet that identifies what these numbers mean. And so the first couple I'll go through here, number one, up in the northwest corner is the Bolen annexation, which you'll be hearing tonight. And that is 17 acres for future school property. The second, number two, let's see, where's that one at? So up off in North Fork, that is the Connor annexation, 38.101 acres. And that is to annex and rezone to medium density residential, and that is slated for the August 14th City Council hearing. Number three, you'll see off to the eastern extremity of the city. That is Lockwood Meadows. It's 20 acres. Pre-application materials for that annexation were submitted, but the conference was not held, and the applicant has indicated that the project is on hold indefinitely. Number four is back up in the northwest corner there. You see that lighter shade, and somewhere here maybe there's no cats in the room. There we go. So there's number four, and that is the Peterson annexation. It's almost 10 acres, and that is also on the August 14th City Council hearing. Number five is right down here. And this is the Schlentz property. That's 5 acres, and we're awaiting a 60% petition on that before we proceed with scheduling the annexation. Commercial projects, we have Heritage Center Building B, which you see is under construction. That's an 8,800 square foot, 2-story office retail building. And then number 7, down here, that is the La Center Middle School site. Building plans are under review, and they're working through some issues with the State Department of Ecology and Army Corps of Engineers before they can really proceed in earnest with site prep and construction. If I jump down, I guess I have to turn this mouse on to make it work here. There we go. So we'll jump here briefly. There's only one project on this slide, but number 8 is Minute Management. That's a hotel, convenience store, some retail square footage, and a drive-through restaurant. The pre-application conference has been held, and at this time we're awaiting a site plan submission from the applicant. Back up. Okay. And we've got, so I should note that the minute management will be a conditional use process, and Eric can get into the details of that if you'd like. They're vested under the old code, and so those uses under the old code are conditional uses. And so there's a little more complicated review and process involved in that one. The other conditional use process we have going on is here, number 9, and that's the Schwartz property, and that's a proposed bed and breakfast. There will be a public hearing before the city's hearings examiner on August 12th for that one. And now we have a series of residential projects that I'll point out here. Number 10 is Dana Heights. Find it right there. And that one is constructed. That was a 14-lot subdivision that was approved in 2006 and is now constructed. Foothill Estates, number 11, there. And phases 1 and 2, it's a 26-lot subdivision, and phases 1 and 2 are under construction. Number 12, there is Gordon Crest 1 and Gordon Crest 2, 14 and 26 lot subdivisions respectively that were approved in 2006 and are under construction. Number 13, there it is, Heritage Country Estates, 120 lot subdivision approved in 2015, which is under construction. Number 14 is there, it's Highland Terrace, and that is a 98 lot subdivision that was approved in 2006, and they are under engineering review. Number 15 is here, Holly subdivision, that's a 39 lot subdivision that was approved just recently here in 2019, in June. The preliminary plat was approved, and they are going through engineering review. 16 there is Kay's Place, 37 lot subdivision approved in 2008. One single family residence has been constructed, and the status of the other construction on that is not known to me at this point. Number 17 is one that you're very familiar with, which is Riverside Estates, 182 single-family residential lots, proposed 155 multifamily unit phase. Phase 1, the plat has been approved. Phase 2, the plat is under review, so those are the two single-family phases. And Phase 3 is under, I believe, site plan review at this time. It's technically complete. Okay, number 18 is the Sargent property, and that is an 11 lot subdivision that was approved in 2007, but the plat has since expired. Number 19, right there, that's Stevens Hillside. It's an 86 lot subdivision that was approved in 2018. The preliminary plat has been approved on that, and the subdivision plans have been approved as well. And finally, number 20, right there, is Country Hills Estates. It's an existing mobile home park. They came in under condo laws and are going through the short plat process, if I got that right.
Final plat.
Final plat.
Preliminary long plat.
Long plat. Okay. So basically, there's a series of boundary adjustments are occurring in there to reflect the realities of where structures exist. A couple other items to note: the critical areas ordinance is these are code updates that are reflecting changes in state law, and WSP, one of our consultants, and Ethan Spoo, a consultant planner, is working that project. And it's coming before the Planning Commission in August. The Town Center, Timmon Landing sub-area plan, we're going through some scoping at this point, trying to develop an RFP for that. And the Shoreline Master Program, more code updates, and this is future Planning Commission work. I expect we'll probably see that in late 2019. And for both the Critical Areas Ordinance and the Shoreline Master Program, there are some modest state grants available that we are pursuing. If I jump back up here, there's that spreadsheet in case you're curious about it. And some additional narrative. Let's see if I can read that here. The county held a public hearing on July 16th to present the public involvement process for the Buildable Lands Program update, which is something the county needs to complete by June 30 of 2021. I think this is kind of ramping up to the next comp plan update. So maybe by the time, Mr. Kearns, we get through all the appeals process, we'll be ready then to adopt another comprehensive plan, right?
Time to do it again.
It's like the Land Use Attorney Full Employment Act. Case Pizzito is finishing stakeholder interviews for the Community Development Departmental Evaluation. They were wrapping some of those up last week. The scope of work with the Johansson Wing Architects has been executed to complete all the pre-construction work on the TDS building, so take us all the way to bid documents with that project. And staff are finalizing a scope of work with DKS Associates to do some traffic modeling at the intersection of La Center Road and Paradise Park Road. The plan currently calls for a traffic signal at that intersection but it's about 450 feet from the center of that roundabout at the ramp terminus off the interstate, and the state doesn't like that very much. So there's one other item, and that's the next map, and I'll invite City Engineer Tony Cooper to join me up here.
Thanks, Jeff. So I realized when this map came up that there's two text boxes that are kind of not showing the text, so I'm going to explain what's going on. So last council meeting, there was a resident that got up that talked about Fir Avenue, I believe it was Fir Avenue and Pioneer, and was asking about providing a free right turn here to allow traffic to turn right. Well, I did some evaluation of that, and what these two arrows show is the line of sight that actually from this intersection, or actually from that stop sign. And so this line of sight is 250 feet, and that's what's normally required for 25 mile an hour speed area. And you can clearly see that you can't see 250 feet because it goes right through the house. So this line is actually what you can see, which is around 85 feet, which is not really adequate enough for line of sight. So you can see the stop bars here for all four stops. So I guess what I would recommend is what MUTCD says is that if you want to have in order to justify a free right turn, you have to have a couple things. One is a line of sight. You have to be able to see traffic coming, and then two, you normally have like a little kind of an island there so you can designate right turns and through. There's neither there. So the problem is that if you allow a free right turn here, this traffic that stops might not be able to see them adequately enough coming around the corner when they turn. So it's really not, I wouldn't recommend it. In addition to that, as I recall, a few years ago, I looked at this site, this area, and I think the school buses stop right here and let off kids to go across the street, which makes it more problematic if you have a free right turn because you got kids crossing this intersection. So I guess in response to this, I would not recommend it. What I did notice is that some of the trees are obstructing the line of sight of the stop sign. So I'll have to talk to Matt about this and see how we can get these trimmed to provide enough vision here for stop signs at all the intersections. Are there any questions?
Is the vegetation on city property or is that private property? That vegetation?
Well, the trees hanging over are in city right of way.
Okay.
Because they're obstructing the stop sign. But the trees actually, some of them might be on private property. I haven't looked at that close, but there's some of them that are clearly in the right of way, and the trees that are overhanging are clearly in the right of way. So we'll have to talk about it with the property owner.
Right.
But it's definitely something that needs to be done.
Okay.
Real quick,
Great.
Jeff. Was there any information or updates on the 4th Street widening there, the grant? Is there any progress on that? Or?
The Department of Commerce sought a bunch of information from us right as the fiscal year started for the state, which is beginning of July, and we've submitted all the information that was required, and the information that they asked for was so they can produce a grant agreement contract between the city and the Department of Commerce so we can receive the funding.
All right. Thank you.
Tony, do you have anything to add about that project?
No, I think it's just a matter of waiting for them to write the agreement. And then once we get the agreement, then we'll know the requirements of the grant.
Very
Any
good.
questions?
I like the table you had in the map with the numbers. I like that because when we talked about these things, I couldn't remember where they were. So it was nice having a real thing to see. Because I know where those numbers fall in the city, but
Okay.
not what the names are.
So it sounds like the format's a keeper then.
Yeah, it's good. It's
Okay,
good. Yeah.
good, we'll go with that. All right. Thank you, Mayor. Thanks, Council.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So the second staff report we have this evening is the finance report, and Finance Manager Dustin Bailey will be presenting.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. A few things for you tonight. First off, the stormwater utility fee was included in the July bill. City staff have been fielding a lot of questions from residents throughout the month. Some residents have received the information positively, some have not, so the council should be aware that there's some people who are still asking questions. You may get questions on the streets as you're around town. Wanted to provide an update on the procurement policy. So at the January 3, 2019 City Council meeting, the council voted in a new procurement policy. The policy set in place processes aimed at reaching these 4 goals. Actually, see, I'm multitasking here. I apologize. Used to having a little bit of help here. All right. So you have four goals from the procurement policy: maintaining the quality and integrity of the city's procurement system, maximizing the procurement value of city funds, providing a uniform citywide procurement system to the extent practical and feasible, and assuring fair and equitable treatment of people who deal with the city's system. So since the January meeting, city staff have been working diligently to maximize the procurement value with the city's budget status as a guidepost. So keeping in mind our budget situation. And I have some major accomplishments to report to you. First off, volume discounts for office supplies, small office equipment, vehicle and equipment, parts and materials, and park and facilities maintenance items have resulted in great cost savings for the city. We eliminated coffee and water services to all city offices. That's been a comment over and over again. We changed the delivery mechanism for staff, so that additional cost savings there. Enhanced efficiency through elimination of redundant work tasks and increased accountability oversight by city managers and the finance department. The council was presented with the 2019 budget amendment July 10, 2019, and that included a reduction in operating costs of $10,000. So the result of the procurement policy, we've rolled that into the budget to reduce operating costs and reduce the budget's deficit for the city. The next item I have is the 2018 State Auditor reports and the 2019 mid-year budget update. So finance staff completed and filed all required reports to the Washington State Auditor for 2018, and staff are currently finalizing numbers for a mid-year budget actual report for 19, which the council will see in the August meeting. The 2020 budget process, I just wanted to provide a quick update. The mayor and myself met with the Budget Advisory Committee at the end of June to discuss our very first zero-based department budget for 2020, which was the wastewater treatment plant, and that resulted in large operational reduction in costs. The Budget Advisory Committee will be meeting tomorrow to review the finance department's budget. And then finally, the card room revenue. On the screen here, I have a breakdown of the card room revenue to date. The revenues in the table are reported when the city receives the revenues, and the card room revenues are generally below 2018, with the exception of May and June. You can see we had an uptick in activity in the card rooms. And that's my report. Are there any questions?
No, but I do have a comment for you, Dustin.
Yes.
I want to take my hat off to you for turning around your department. You and your team are working a lot of hours and being very due diligent in your processes, and they show. The numbers are showing.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Good report. So next on the agenda is citizens' public comment. If anyone would like to address the council, please step up to the podium, and if you'd give us your name and address, and if you'd limit your comments to 3 minutes. And this will only be for items that are not on the agenda this evening. So if it's on the agenda, we'll just have to wait for the public hearings for individual items.
My name is Carlene Stevens. I live in Battleground, but I own land in La Center. I have been before the City Council twice regarding the Stevens Hillside Farm subdivision that we're trying to build. It's about 45 acres. It's up on North Fork Avenue across from Southview Heights. It's been a long process trying to get everything done and approved. And I guess the problem is we're at preliminary approval stage with the subdivision, but there were promises made throughout the process that were not kept. Jeff Sarvis, when we first started, told Perry and I that The city knew that it would need to purchase a right-of-way across the canyon to eventually connect the main street in our subdivision with Bolen Road. And then we were forced to donate the easement in order to proceed. Otherwise, our project would have been dead in the water. That didn't feel particularly good. Then all the way through this entire process, we were told that we had to build the main street through the subdivision as a major collector road, which is bigger, wider, more involved with building it, but that we would be reimbursed some of the costs for building that road. All the way through this whole entire process. They were also telling us that they might never build the bridge to cross that canyon to connect to Bolen Road because it was going to be quite expensive to do so. So at the very end of this project, we are now being told, no, I'm sorry, you don't get any reimbursement for that, which we've been part of the development community in Clark County for almost 50 years, more than 50 years. Perry started in Slayton houses when he was 14. We know a lot of developers and people who build roads in the county. Mark Stevens did that for 30-some years. So we were actually computing costs for this subdivision as we've been going through to make sure that it would be something that's feasible to do. At this point in time, it isn't. We have to build bigger lots up there because of the slopes and the drainage. We don't have any choice. We can't, per the suggestion of your community development guy, just make smaller lots and cram more houses in there. We can't do that. I think it's a shame that what's happened is that for us, at least in our experience, the word of employees of the cities of La Center has no credibility. You don't tell somebody all the way through an entire project that they're going to get reimbursement for an expensive thing that you're requiring, and then at the end of the project, when they've got $150,000 invested in it, tell them, nope, sorry, no, you don't get it. So we have had multiple issues with this. I've written it out in letters. Rather than to just send them to you, I decided to come here, speak a little bit, and then I will give you these, and then we will wait for you to contact us again. I just kind of figured the buck stops here. So this will be for you.
Thank you for that. And as you can see, our community development director is here this evening, the city engineer is here this evening, as well as the city planner. I know that you've met with all of them at one time or another.
Oh, many times,
Yep.
yes. Yes,
So,
we've had many meetings with Mr. Eisenman and Mr. Swanson and Tony Cooper.
Yep. Okay, so they're here to hear your testimony this evening, as well as the council. I'll get these distributed.
Okay, we did
And-
sit down with Tony and with Jeff, is that right? Thank you, I'm so bad with names anymore. We did sit down with them and have a meeting, and basically we received a letter back that there was one issue on there that was addressed to a certain point, but the rest of it was kind of too bad, so sad. So that's why we're here. So we're hoping that we can at least get the TIF credits for the street, because otherwise we're not even getting any offers to build on that land up there. So it's just going to be a big field sitting there. So that's where we're at.
Thank you. Thank you for bringing it to our attention. Appreciate it.
Al Fellow, 152 West 15th Street. I was driving back from Battle Ground today, and I get up to Summit Grove, and there's a welcome to the center sign, you know, and I drive on a little, well, about where Smitzer Road comes out, and I look at that, and I look at Timon Road, and I said, wait a minute, that's northwest, you know, that's in the southwest or southeast part of the center. And then I realized, of course, I went to school here in the center, so I'm a little slow sometimes, you know. And, you know, I says, wow, this is still the, you know, it's in the city limits, but it still has the county addresses. And, of course, it's still in Richfield as a zip code, you know, but we don't want to, you know, get into that. But I was thinking we should at least be thinking about changing those streets and whatnot, you know. I mean, somebody mentioned, well, you don't want them to change. I've lived on the center all my life, except for I was in the military. And I've been living up there, right where the number 11 was. It kind of made me worried there, you know. And then, but that's the area around me. And, I went from Route 2, Box 4B to 107 Northwest 343rd Street to 152 West 15th Street, all in the matter of about 3 years. And so what if they changed my, didn't have much choice, the powers that be change them, So I'm just thinking that we should change those streets over there to something that corresponds to what they're going to be, I would hope, and if they want to change the zip code, that's going to happen eventually, I've been told, so we can at least get a little proactive and at least let people know that, hey, your address is going to change, whether it be, northwest, southwest, southeast, or whatever, but, people should be thinking about that because development is going to happen over there. We're already getting a hotel up there. Boy, Gloom and Doom Al says that's good. Okay, well, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Al.
Council, Mayor, Laura Martin, 903 East 7th Street. So, some people might be scared of why I'm here, and I'm not here for myself because, honestly, I think I'm better off not working for somebody's character that is never going to change because my character has not changed. So, from the start of this position, I don't know, most of you, I don't know if you've heard, but I have been let go. And the last time I think that you heard anything about me, Council, is on June, I think it was 26th, on our last Council meeting, when we wrote up about all the stuff. I think it was Pro Tem Cerveny about all the stuff of the reporting that we found, all the issues that we found. Your direct questions, I think, were how much do we pay in consultants for that extra work, and how much has the city staff wasted? Where then somebody went on record, so my manager went on record and said, I would have to say that Laura has attributed for a lot of these things, right? So I've had continuous meetings. First meeting, 2/8/19, as a consultant, okay? Don't worry, Dustin, I'm not going to say anything about you. Just besides my manager thing, you don't have to look like that. So I'm going to say, I ask, so I get the task from the accountant that I'm taking the spot from, the person that does, the other accountant that does the AP and the AR and the payroll, as well as the utility clerk position. I ask for all those job descriptions, and I see that there's multiple items of the same exact thing on all the job descriptions. So I go to Dustin on 2/8/19, and I ask him, I say, well then, I said, what is my job? Like, I don't understand because these people say that they're doing this part, but he's got this on his list, but then she says that she's doing this as well. Well, what's going on? He couldn't tell me. Told me to go ask Janice. So we tried to figure it out. I would ask Janice, where did you get this number? She would say, I created it from this report. She would show me what she was doing. It would make sense to me. So then I said, what did you do with that? She said, I gave it to Paul. I said, what did Paul do? Because nothing of your report or any of your reconciliation is in his paperwork. It's completely changed. Come to find out all these questions that I have, right? Normally you go on my LinkedIn, you go ask any one of my managers. The compliment is always, she picks up things really fast, and I'm really impressed that she has accounting and IT, so then she could see the big circle of what needs to be fixed. All I've heard is the center needs to be fixed. We need to have transparency for our citizens. Right now, we're budgeting off the wrong numbers. Does it have to do with me not entering general ledger accounts? Correct, because I don't just enter a number that I don't believe. If you ask me to enter a number, I want to know what it is. So then when Strobehn or Randy or any of you come into my office, I can explain exactly what that item is, because every citizen deserves to know that transparency, right? That's what we're going for. We're known for a hostile work environment. I'm sorry, I've heard that I was getting fired 2 weeks before I got fired from multiple employees that have had multiple problems, and I got in no drama. I kept my head down. I got involved in, I can't tell you all the discretional employees or whatever the word is, their problems, because I didn't get involved, because I didn't care. All I wanted to do is my job. I cannot believe how many times I asked for multiple training and I still didn't get anything. I even asked to sit with AP, AR, utility clerk, just to watch them. Because if that's the training I'm going to get, I'm just going to watch them. I had said, is there cities that we can reach out to? He said Richfield. He said he reached out to Kirk. He's a great person, and their senior accountant seems cool. She's great. So I reach out to her, and I plan a 2-day thing. She finds the exact same questions I have. So, and they're modified accrual, and they use GAAP and bars. So I'm starting to really now question my numbers, and I'm not going to enter it. They're wrong. How do you? We stick everything in miscellaneous, FYI. Then at the end of the year, we go through that miscellaneous account that is giant, and then we try to stick it in the right category, and then we budget off that. That's not budgeting to me at all. To me, like if it is a monthly.
Laura.
Okay.
Excuse me,
Yep.
It's been 3 minutes, so if you could
Okay.
please wrap this up.
I will wrap it up.
Yep.
So I have copies of all the meetings that I've ever had with Dustin and the mayor. So I went to I had a meeting with Dustin on I want to say it was the 26th. It was the Thursday after the council, because I was very frustrated at that point, and he knew that. Had a meeting with him, went over all my concerns. Never in any of my meetings did I ever throw you under the bus. It was always about my job, and you can't say that I changed that. Then I met with the mayor twice. Once was off my time, and once was because I asked you as a mentor. And I think you hurt me the worst, because you are the person that people are supposed to go to when they feel like they're not being heard. I told you everything that I wanted the first time you interviewed me, and you said that's exactly what you're looking for. Now you get rid of the person that's not creating that, and you think that think something's going to change? Nothing changes, nothing changes. So the fact that you then said, I'm going to go to Corbin, and then Corbin went directly to Dustin, and then I got alienated for 2.5 weeks, and basically told by other people they're building a case to get me fired. Go onto my computer and find one rude thing I did, or not ask for help, because I have a whole stack. So council members, I've got all the backup, everything. Love to talk to you after.
Okay.
Chris Martin, 903 East 7th Street. I'm Laura's husband. I apologize, I'll be looking down because I got a lot of that I got here. So I've come to you here today to discuss some items that I feel that the council should be made aware of. She poured her heart and soul into this job, and she was let go due to insecurities from her supervisor. When her supervisor was going through divorce, he would be in her office for hours, ultimately not allowing her to work. And then at the end, he'd be like, "Oh, by the way, you have this deadline's due," but she's not allowed to do that work. And she doesn't feel like she can bring it up because she's brand new and it's her supervisor. As she mentioned, her parent job duties were handled by multiple people before, and they all got thrown into just for her doing it. If there are accounting tasks that are the highest priority, Laura should not be working on city council items. Since it needs to get done as well, it is the responsibility of that supervisor to either complete those tasks himself as the city clerk or temporarily assign them to someone else. If he does neither, but also expects her to get everything done, he's setting her up to fail. Her supervisor has offered to help her with city clerk duties, but never actually does. He wants the title, but not the responsibility. He only offers when it's in front of others. She constantly tried to communicate with her supervisor to clarify issues and discuss priorities. At first he was receptive, but eventually stopped responding. Other people, let's get that. Gossip is rampant in the city. Laura heard that the case was being made against her to let her go a couple weeks before it actually happened, and then she also heard the day before that it was going to happen on the following day. Why does a utility clerk at the front desk know about all these personnel decisions that are occurring within the city? It makes no sense. And then also, how is it that an employee who doesn't gossip and tries to get along with everyone is let go, but an employee who calls another city employee a 4-letter word that starts with a C in the presence of other city employees, not disciplined? The employee who did this even bragged to another employee that she is getting fake written up. This is just glaring. It's against the employee personnel policy that's listed on the City of La Center website. She's asked to meet with the mayor multiple times. Never to throw her supervisor under the bus, only to what she can do better at her job. Look for guidance. She doesn't create drama. And both times, it somehow makes its way back. She even, Laura spoke with Janice Corbin, the contract HR person, that she was worried about being retaliation from her supervisor. And her response was, "Oh, he wouldn't do that. He doesn't have the heart for it." But somehow those comments always seem to make it back to him. During the last few weeks, the entire finance department literally didn't speak to her at all. Laura came in one morning on the 10th of July. And her supervisor was at the printer looking down, waiting for his print, and Laura said, "Good morning." He looked up to her, didn't say a word, and then looked right back down. It was only after the final decision for that separation, which was the day before it happened, that everybody in the office was overly nice. Some other bad things that I have no problem with saying, Laura's supervisor stored his personal belongings in the tedious garage while he was going through divorce. That's against city policy. Her supervisor also transported these belongings to his new residence with a city vehicle, against city policy. Janice Corbin, the HR contract person, apparently conducts city business while on medication. Laura emailed her about something, and Janice responded multiple times thinking she was somebody else from a completely different city. And when Laura brought it up, reminded her who she was talking to, she responded with, "You got me so many drugs yesterday, but the knee feels better today." Council may also want to look into the finance department employees and the cost of the building permits that they may have been issued. This whole thing is a textbook definition of a hostile work environment. It's been that way for years, and it doesn't look like it's changing anytime soon. And it concerns me greatly. And then as with what Laura ended with, Mr. Mayor, I hate to say it, but I feel like you're a coward that you do not stand up to this plain and simple. Laura looked to you as someone she respected and as a mentor. She liked that you were trying to turn things around with this city, and it doesn't seem like you're doing anything to fix these issues, especially the ones that have been going on for years. Shame on you.
Okay. Anyone else for public comment this evening?
Yes.
Please step up to the podium.
Greetings, Listener, once again. My name is Chris Loken. I live at 708 East 15th Circle, Listener. I came tonight to thank Listener on largely confining our consumer fireworks to July 3 and 4 this year. I regard that as some wonderful, conscientious, and patriotic progress. Let's keep this wonderful progress going. I also came to reiterate my desire to have the center fireworks code changed to eliminate the use of flying and loud consumer fireworks. I will reiterate my primary reasons for desiring this change of the code. I regard the intensity of the center fireworks events to be an unreasonable disturbance of peace, an unreasonable fire hazard, and to cause unreasonable destruction to wildlife and to our wetlands. The fireworks of Independence Day 2018 ignited my front yard, which smoldered all night. It created a 10-foot diameter burn patch directly beneath a mature tree. As I stated here on previous occasions, all of the center fireworks events that I've witnessed have been sufficiently intense to eliminate the majority of wildlife that lives on my property for months following these events. The species that have returned have done so in dramatically reduced numbers, approximately 0 to 30% of the previous population, depending on species. I observe a similar dramatic decline for the wildlife of the wetlands near my home. This year, we had approximately 20 goldfinches living in the trees in our front yard all spring and summer to July 2nd. There were none on July 5th. That remains so to this day. The most obvious, most likely cause for this disappearance is our extraordinarily intense Independence Day fireworks event. Indeed, fireworks have long been used to intentionally destroy and drive off wildlife, and effectively. I have lived many places in my life, both urban and rural. Nowhere have I witnessed consumer fireworks 1/10 the intensity of the center fireworks. Virtually all Americans celebrate Independence Day without the use of loud or flying fireworks. What is it about loud booms and spraying fire that is so captivating to some? I encourage all.
Okay, excuse me, Mr. Larkin, it's been 3 minutes. If you could please begin to wrap it up.
Sure, last paragraph. I encourage all to choose the peace and respect of all your neighbors, the safety of their property, and the existence of wildlife over loud booms and spraying fire. Thank you once again.
Thank you.
Yeah.
As long as we're on the fireworks, I'm Dennis Crane. I live at 1205 West F Place. And I was at the last meeting and I spoke. Said I was leaving town on the 4th because I'd been told it was quite exciting here. Well, I did stay. The 3rd was doable. The 4th was not. And I'm not against fireworks. I'm against personal public fireworks. You need a display. You need to have your big park. Have everybody go there and enjoy one big giant celebration. And then, because they limited them till midnight, at 11:30, it was like Vietnam all over again. It was just one giant boom after another one. I don't know why the windows didn't break until about 12:15, and then they ended, pretty much. Meanwhile, our dog was crazy, I was crazy, my wife was crazy. And the next morning, when I'm out walking, I walk every morning, I'm walking through Southview Heights, and I happened to be talking to a lady sweeping along the trail, the Heritage Trail. And I noticed she was sweeping fireworks stuff. And she said, oh, it's not too bad here, but it's out in the street. But the street sweepers have been through. Well, I said, that's pretty nice. And so she said, yeah, they come every year. Well, apparently that's the only place that they came. Our streets were never cleaned. Even to this point, there's refuge everywhere from the fireworks. Our yard was loaded. For 3 days we had to pick stuff out of there. And that's it. If we could just get it down to a public demonstration at a park, it would be the 4th of July.
Thank you. Any other public comment this evening? Okay, we'll move on. So next on the agenda, we have a couple ordinances this evening. The first one will be Ordinance 2019-14, gambling tax. And Mr. Dustin Bailey, our Finance Manager, will be presenting to the Council.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. The City of La Center has authorized and allows gambling activities in the city pursuant to Revised Code of Washington, Chapter 9.46. The city imposes tax on the net win of those activities as codified in Chapter 5.25 in the La Center Municipal Code. And as the Council knows, economic pressures compelled the city and the cardroom operators to establish an alternate tax agreement, which included a tax structure based on gambling activities. City staff met with the La Center cardroom operators to discuss the effectiveness of the structure set forth in the alternate tax agreement. All parties agreed that the tax structure was effective and mutually beneficial. Therefore, all parties involved are proposing an amendment to the La Center Municipal Code, Title 5, Chapter 25, to codify the tax structure that is in the alternate tax agreement. The adopted budget for 2019 includes estimated revenues based on the alternate tax agreement, so there's no budget impact to this action. So city staff recommend the City Council approve Ordinance 2019-14, amending the La Center Municipal Code to codify that tax structure. Are there any questions?
Okay, no questions. Thank you.
So motion put this into the city code.
Pardon?
I think we should change the city code.
Okay, well, it's a public hearing, so I'm going to open it up for public comment. So at 7:30, I will open up for public comment. If anybody would like to address the council, have any concerns about this, if you please step up to the podium and limit your comments to 3 minutes after giving us your name and address. Okay, seeing nobody stepping up to the podium, I will go ahead and close the public hearing and turn it back over to council for any further discussion or comments. I just would like to add to this that this has been an issue that the city's been working on for some time, and I just want to mention that Mr. Paul Lewis has worked diligently with the city to get this resolved. I really appreciate all his efforts and all the meetings that Mr. Lewis and I have had with the card rooms and working through this. So I definitely want to mention Mr. Lewis and thank him for all his help.
Yeah, I think it's pretty cut and dry after everything that I've read from before I was on the council and then during.
Okay.
I think it's positive. The card rooms feel it's advantageous for them, and we feel it's advantageous for us, and we both do well when the card rooms do well. And when the card rooms don't have the best of months, we both share that together.
Okay. So this is really not changing anything other than making the current tax structure permanent. So with that, could I get a motion?
Yeah, Mayor, I move to approve the ordinance 2019-14, amending the Center Municipal Code Title 5, Chapter 25, Gambling Tax, as outlined in Exhibit 1 of this agenda item.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve ordinance 2019-14, amending the Center Municipal Code Title 5, Chapter 25, Gambling Tax, as outlined in Exhibit 1 of this agenda item. This is an ordinance, so if I could please get a roll call vote.
Councilmember Boff.
Aye.
Councilmember Stimmel.
Yes.
Councilmember Williams.
Yes.
Councilmember Strobehn.
Yes.
Councilmember Cerveny.
Yes.
Ordinance 2019-14 is approved unanimously by the council. Thank you, council. Thank you for the staff report, Dustin. Next on the agenda is ordinance 2019-15. It's for the backflow cross connections. And again, Mr. Dustin Bailey will be presenting.
Might be wearing off the carpet tonight, man.
Yeah, going back and forth.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. The last meeting we went through much of this, so I'm going to spend a lot of time on the staff report. We discussed it quite a bit. Essentially, this ordinance, it's an ordinance and resolution, which will establish regulations for backflow protection device installation and the inspection. That's in the ordinance. The resolution establishes the rate structure. And thank you to City Attorney Dan Kearns for helping with language on the resolution. And with that, are there any questions?
Yeah, I had one. I wasn't at the last meeting, but I did listen to the recordings. How does this reflect with what the Clark County PUD already requires?
It aligns with the PUD requirements. That's what this ordinance and the rate structure is trying to do, is to align the city's requirements with the PUD requirements.
Okay. So we're aligning with it. So if we pay these fees, we don't have to pay anything to have it done also for PUD and all.
My understanding is you shouldn't. Unfortunately, Matt's not here to comment on that. He's kind of expert. I don't know if Tony or Jeff have any knowledge on that, but
I thought this was for inspection of connection,
It's-
new connections.
yes, it's for
not
the-
ongoing inspections, so we have to, they're two different things.
For new construction.
that is
New
correct.
construction only.
Yeah.
It's just to inspect new construction.
I thought I read in there somewhere that said that anything that's been or anything needs to be updated in the last in the next 6 months. They have a deadline to do it. So if it's new construction, you're saying within what time frame?
This isn't doesn't apply just to new construction, because it applies to anyone who has basically a permanent water fixture attached to their system at all at home. So swimming pool, lawn irrigation, sprinkling, that sort of thing, because a lot of times those systems, for example, a pool could suck chlorinated water or whatever is in the pool into the system without a proper backflow device. Lawn irrigation systems oftentimes have fertilizer and pesticide tie-in, so if it doesn't have a backflow device, it could suck into the system. So going forward, that's a pretty simple deal. As these are installed, they have to be installed correctly with a backflow device and inspected. The more problematic thing are all the sprinkler systems in town have to come into compliance. So we're, I think, way behind the curve that CPU realized weren't doing this. So the more difficult thing will be for word to spread that this ordinance has been adopted and people have to have backflow devices installed.
So that's within in the language in here from what I read, that's within 6 months that we have to, or we violate it. The residents violate it at that point. So then my question comes full circle again. Is this going to coincide with what the PUD already requires, and are we going to have to pay double fees for this, being with the city and then being with the Clark PUD?
You should not.
You should not. I'd like a final answer of some sort of how we can do that. Or
But you're paying for what, on CPU side, what impacts your water, your drinkable water. On the city side, what we're paying for impacting is both the stormwater flow and the wastewater sewer impact, correct?
Well, these backflow devices, what they're intended to do is to prevent contamination of the potable water system.
And CPU doesn't do that. They don't administer this program in the city, to my knowledge, do they?
They require.
They have in the
So
past,
they do inspections. Is it systematic?
they can shut your water off if you don't comply with the inspection.
They offer a program where you can get on the list, and they'll have their contractor do it, or you can do it on your own, and they submit the inspection.
So it's through your user agreement as a customer of CPU that they impose it. My understanding is that they want to not do that. They want the city to take it over.
I don't know that we have to redo everything that's already been done. So, because Mr. Jenkins is not here this evening, our Public Works Manager, and there's still some confusion, some questions, if I could suggest maybe we postpone this till the next city council meeting and get that clarified, because it's not really my understanding, as Mr. Cairns has outlined, but I'm not going to, I don't know.
But it's not replacing.
But I will, Mr. Jenkins will be here at the next meeting, so we will definitely revisit this, if that's okay with the council. I apologize for the confusion. I thought we had that all worked out after the work session, but good questions.
I think that's a good suggestion. I read if you look at the state code, you'll see a lot of the same things that we've talked about in just the last few minutes. But the question, then, when I read that, the questions that come up in my mind is how we would implement this. I want to talk about fees. The proposed fees appear to be in line because I'm assuming there will be some labor that goes into doing these inspections, and I can see where those costs would have to be covered. But I think we need to keep talking about this.
Okay, no, we'll definitely get those questions answered at the next meeting. Again, I apologize for the confusion and appreciate the report, but we'll...
So what I would look for is that the city would take over this regulation, and if people have installed backflow devices that have been inspected or are consistent with the requirements, then I think you're good to go.
Yeah.
But it's my understanding there are people who haven't, and this is designed to have them come in. So I didn't realize that CPU was actually administering it within the city. I know with other cities in the county that are served by CPU, those cities have adopted similar ordinances and they implement the program.
What CPU is doing, perhaps once a year, they'll have an insert in the bill, and they'll have some recommended inspectors.
Okay, well...
But they don't offer to come out and do it themselves.
So we'll revisit this at the next city council meeting. Again, I apologize. Provided there's enough time to notice it for the next city council meeting. It may be...
Why don't you continue it?
Okay, there you go. We'll make it a continuance, so we'll just postpone it for the next city council.
We'll find out.
Thank you. Okay, moving along. Next on the agenda is Ordinance 2019-16 for the Bolen Annexation, and our contract city planner, Mr. Eric Eisman, will be presenting tonight.
Good evening, Council, Mayor, and citizens. As I've said before, this is one of my more favorite duties to do, is to bring an annexation in front of you as we continue to grow, as Mr. Swanson showed earlier. So tonight, if we could, let's see, just get us to that. There we go. Can you see that? Okay. So this is a fairly straightforward annexation. The property in question is owned by the Center School District, 101. It's 17 acres. It is north of Northwest Bolen Road and east of Northwest 14th Avenue. It is sort of the one thumb that sticks up on the northwest side of the city's urban growth area. Excuse me. The property has been in the city's growth boundary for since 2016 at least, if not earlier. Currently, it's under county comprehensive plan and zoning for public facilities, which is school district use. When it is annexed, it would be rezoned by the City of the Center for public facilities with an urban holding 10 overlay, which means that cannot be divided into less than 10-acre parcels. Right now, it's under urban holding 20 in Clark County, but we don't have that designation. So the land was brought into the City Council, or to the City of the Center for the purpose of school district in the future, and at annexation, it would be continued to be used for that purpose. The property does have critical areas. You can see in this map in the circle area that there are steep slopes, there are riparian areas, there are wetlands. All of that will affect development of the property in the future. That's really not subject of the annexation and the rezoning itself. We just recognize that when development occurs, of any nature, it will have to deal with those critical areas that are there. I'll go back to the main slide because it's a lot prettier. So this process began in 2017. The school district put the process on hold until May of this year. We've sent the certification for sufficiency to Clark County. They have certified this. We have done our SEPA analysis for the rezone. We don't have to do that for the annexation, but we've completed that. And as I say, we've also sent this out for public comment, and the public comment period closed today, and there have been no comments related to this. So there are no budget impacts associated with annexation, and it gives me just a lot of pleasure to bring this forward for your approval. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have. It's fairly straightforward.
Very good. Any questions for Mr. Eisman? Okay, so hearing none, I'll open it up for public comment. If anyone would like to address the council on this issue, please, on this ordinance, please step up to the podium and give us your name and address, and if you'd limit your comments to 3 minutes.
Good evening, Council and Mayor. Dave Holmes, Superintendent of the Center School District. Address is 1011 Northwest 379th Street, La Center. So I am not in the city limits personally, although I spend most of my time inside the city limits. And I would also like to offer that any citizen who graduated multiple decades ago and didn't feel they got appropriate education is more than welcome to come back, and we'll see what we can do to upgrade that experience. That said, obviously the purpose of this annexation is to get the school district a little bit ahead of the game, as opposed to having been behind the game now for multiple years. The district purchased this property back in 2006 with the intent of building an elementary school on it, because back then the developmental plans of the city included a secondary bridge down by Paradise Point, included the Riverside Estates, along with a lot of other developments that were going to occur. And as we all know, with the banking industry problems and all the other things that happened in the economy going the wrong direction, and all those things got put on hold. And then when things started to pick up again, the development occurred on the other side of town. And as you know, we now have a piece of property on the other side of town to build them. That we're in the process of building a middle school on. If anybody knows anybody from the Department of College or Army Corps of Engineers, please see me afterwards. I could use your help. That said, we do feel like we should be going to bid on that project within the next 30 days, which is about 10 months past our expected date of when we were hoping to go to bid for that.
That said, there's been a lot of conversation with our board around should we keep that piece of property on Bolen Road or possibly sell it as surplus. But now with the new, I guess, reenactment or revitalization of the plans that were discussed earlier, all on the west side of town, it looks probably pretty appropriate that whether Department of Commerce gets your grant and we ever see a widening of 4th Street, which would certainly help our problem with transportation going back and forth, certainly can't count on that and don't know what date that might occur. So this is just part of our planning process. We do not want to deal with the county if we build a school there. Working with Tony and the city has been wonderful so far with this project, and look forward to doing that in the future and not having to deal with the county processes to build a school there. So but I'd be happy to answer any questions if you have any concerning those plans, but nothing now other than just planning for the future and having things ready.
What are the total buildable lands on that parcel?
We think about 9 acres of the 17 without doing any kind of wetland reclamation or other types of, it would definitely be an elementary school. There's not room there for large athletic fields or large parking areas or those kind of things. So, and that was the idea when it was first purchased, was to put an elementary school there.
Would that even cover your parking lot?
Oh yes.
The needs that you have for...
Yes it would. We actually, architect did some preliminary design work on that site back in 2008 when we ran the last bond that failed, thankfully. Another one of those 20/20 hindsight things, and ran the bond in February. The market took a dive in March. Luckily it didn't, it was one of those things that, good thing, because the district would have been sitting on a bond with no need for a building. And so back to your original question, was architects did some preliminary planning, and they could build a 350 student elementary school on that site with sufficient parking, play fields, and those types of facilities. So it is sufficient for that use.
Is that going to be sufficient for the amount of housing and development that we have going in the next 3 to 5 years? For projected outlook?
Good. Don't know. What I can tell you is we also have additional land behind the property where the middle school is built. There's 8 acres back there that's not being developed. So there's multiple places. The high school has expansion already designed into the building that's there for a whole other wing that would increase the capacity of that building by about 250 students, which gives us about, so on a ratio basis, that's about 60 students per grade level across the district, which works out to about 700, 800 students total. That's a large increase. We've not seen the growth that we thought we were going to see so far. Can't tell you exactly. I have my theories about it. The board has their theories. Primarily, young families with children aren't purchasing the $500,000 homes that are currently being built. We actually only increased our student enrollment last year by 19 students on a 1,700 student school district. So not seeing the growth yet. I think we're going to see a fairly good bump this fall. Lots of families moving in, lots of homes, now at least what we're seeing on our impact fees coming through. A lot of completions being done. So I would suspect we'll see a small increase, meaning when I say small, 50 or 60 students, which would be large for us in 1 year, but not to the capacity ranges that we've seen. If you notice, we just put in 4 more portable classrooms on our softball field, in expectation of some of that growth. Those are leased. All 3 of those buildings are leased, so when that middle school opens up, those go away. We get our softball field back or our play field back. So looking more forward to that than the actual opening of the middle school. Just getting those portables gone. It's like portables are never portable and they're always permanent. So it's my experience.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Holmes,
You
for
bet.
your insight. Appreciate that very much. Okay.
Thank you.
So seeing nobody else stepping up to the microphone,
Skip Burleson, 35915, Northwest Jenny Creek Road, the center. And I just, Mr. Holmes, I didn't understand, is there an intent on behalf of the district, I guess I'm asking Mr. Holmes, to keep the property in inventory?
Yes.
Okay, that was, rather than see it get annexed and then surplus.
Correct.
Okay, that was my question.
Very good, thank you. Okay, at 7:50, I will close the public hearing and turn it back over to council for any further discussion.
Mayor, I move the council accept the ordinance number 2019-16 annexing parcel 258647000 owned by the Center School District number 101, annexing the abutting Northwest 14th Avenue right-of-way and rezoning the school district property as urban public / urban holding 10.
A second. It's been moved and seconded to accept ordinance 2019-16 annexing parcel 258647000 owned by the Center School District 101, annexing the abutting Northwest 14th Avenue right-of-way and rezoning the school district property urban public, urban holding 10. It's an ordinance, so if I could please get a roll call.
Councilmember Boff?
Aye.
Councilmember Stimmel?
Yes.
Councilmember Williams?
Yes.
Councilmember Strobehn?
Yes.
Councilmember Cerveny?
Yes.
Ordinance number 2019-16 passes unanimously. Thank you, council. Again, thank you, Mr. Holmes. Thank you, Eric, for your presentation. Appreciate all your hard work. So we have two items under new business this evening. First one is pavement preservation approval, and our city engineer, Mr. Tony Cooper, will be presenting.
Thank you, Mayor, City Council. So there's two staff reports tonight. The first one is an authorization for the 2019 pavement repair project. So every year, the city receives approximately $60,000 in revenue from gas tax, excise tax for fuel. And every year we try to use that on projects within the city that are most needed for repair. So it's the chip seals in the past, slurry seals, and several pavement repair areas. So the staff has evaluated the projects this year, and it seems like the most appropriate use of the money this year is to do some various repairs of pavement that is failing. In other words, asphalt is cracking, the base is settling. And so we evaluated 3 streets, 5th Street, Aspen Avenue, and 10th Street. And just to back up, since the roundabout was built, very long vehicles cannot make certain movements of that roundabout. And so what the intent is there would be a bypass, and the bypass would go up Aspen, up 10th, north, and up 5th Street. That's just for the very, very long vehicles. So during construction, it looks like that the vehicles during the staging have really degraded the condition of some of these roads. So that kind of has escalated it. So this basically is a look at different areas. If you could scan down on the maps there, but so we looked at these 3 areas and did a cost estimate of 5th Street and Aspen Avenue, and it's about $33,000. We have about $60,000 budget. Some of it is used for some maintenance, so there might be a little less. So what I've done is I've looked at 5th Street and Aspen Avenue as a base bid and an alternate bid as 10th Street cost, just to make sure we stay under budget of what we have. For a small project like this, it's hard to estimate what a contractor will really bid because there's very small quantities, and so sometimes the prices escalate depending on what what those quantities cost them. So I've looked at this so that to create an alternate, just to make sure we're under the bid, under the amount of budget we have, and then if we have enough, we'll do all of this. So if you scan down, Dustin, on the maps, there should be another map there, hopefully. Maybe it didn't come through. But anyway, yeah, that's it. Trying to get, anyway, so what the map shows, if it doesn't come up, is there was just various places along 5th Street. One is the intersection, and just small little repairs. One on Aspen Avenue, I think everybody's probably seen. It's a settled area right there. That's pretty long on the travel lane going towards 4th Street. And then 10th Street, there's various places that are cracking. So the request is to advertise this project and to try to obtain some bids to do the repairs. And the total cost was around $48,000, a little over $48,000. And so it would be authorization to bid this project. Are there any? Oh, there it is.
They're big files.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, they are. So that's 10th Street. If you scan up, I think there's one really bad spot on Aspen Avenue that's been settling for a long time.
Is that the one on Aspen? Is that where that wet spot develops and then it freezes in the wintertime?
Yes.
So you're gonna do like a French drain type?
Well, probably, most likely, what we would just need is just a good section of base and asphalt, and then once we dig it up, we'll probably find out what's going on. But right now, it just looks like it just needs a repair is gonna be a good section that's gonna.
Is there storm drain in Aspen?
There is a storm drain in Aspen, and there's a possibility that we might do a change order to drain that if there's a way to do that. But at this point, I didn't look at that because it's kind of an unknown until we open this up. But it's a possibility we might do a change order if we found that it would need to be drained in some way. But there are several areas along in the center where there are springs pop up, and sometimes it just takes a good section of base and asphalt to fix that. But sometimes it does require some drainage. So until we open up, we really don't know. If you scan up, I think there's 5th Street. So there's plenty. The intersection there's sections where it's just asphalt is just popping up. It's getting so bad, and several of the sections along here just really have bad alligator cracking and just subgrade failure. So this project is to try to fix those areas to kind of keep them going for the amount of traffic we have going through there right now.
A couple of questions for you, Tony.
Yeah.
Real quick before I ask the second one. You brought up that there was talk of bypass going up Aspen to 10th. The construction here is to help alleviate any more damage to the asphalt then? Or I'm kind of confused at why that...
Yes, it's to repair the asphalt that's been alligator cracking, which means it's a subgrade failure. In other words, something is going on with the base below that's not adequate to support it. So it would be to excavate the asphalt, tear out the base to about 8 inches or 9 inches, replace the base and put 4 inches of asphalt on top of that. So that would be it's just a pavement repair.
I understood that completely. What I didn't understand is that you were talking about it being a bypass for large vehicles. That's where I was kind of thrown off a little bit.
Yes. So the roundabout, when it was designed, it was understood that there's not enough right-of-way to build a very, very large roundabout that would facilitate all size vehicles. So it facilitates any of the large vehicles up to WB 4050, which are generally the good-sized trucks. But say, for instance, a lowboy that has a really long wheelbase, and there's a gentleman that lives just outside the city limits, and that has some hauls equipment. Yes, Mark Hort. And we talked in length before this was designed, trying to find out how to maneuver through some of his long vehicles through two of the movements where it's hard to turn on those. And what the solution was is to use 5th Street, and it actually worked for him. So that that was actually a bypass for some of these larger vehicles, but for some of the larger vehicles that can't make this, which are really long vehicles, this is the bypass, is to go up, turn 4th Street, turn right on, or up Pacific Highway, turn right on 4th Street, and then go up Aspen, and then continue on up 10th Street or 5th Street. So that was generally the bypass that would be used in the future. Now, the county actually routes some of the longer loads through here because they can't, the bridge on I-5. So, and I've heard that there's possibility that they're going to work on that and try to resolve that and just reconstruct it. So that might go away, but the county routes some of those vehicles across the Center Road.
Okay.
And so this is to address some of that. But it's just been failing for several years, and so it's just propagated because of all the construction going on.
So this is one of the reasons that you guys have chose these roads for repairs,
It's
because
right.
of that side of it,
Because it's getting
as
more
opposed
traffic.
to any others. Okay, that's what I was trying to understand.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Good report.
Thank you.
Could you expand that a little bit, please, Dustin? Thank you. We can read it. Okay. So any other discussion, questions for the city engineer, or get a motion to approve this?
Move to authorize city staff to prepare bid documents and advertise the 2019 pavement repair project with an estimated budget amount of $48,400.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to authorize city staff to prepare bid documents and advertise the 2019 pavement repair project with an estimated budget of $48,400. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Tony. So we have one more item on that under new business this evening, and it's the Transportation Improvement Board application for paving the Center Road.
So every year, TIB has a grant. They have several grants that are offered to small cities, and small cities are according to them, are 5,000 people or less. So we qualify as a small city. There's three different types of grants that they offer. One is called a Small City Arterial, one is called the Small City Sidewalk Program, and the next one is the Small City Preservation Program, which includes chip seals or paving. So one of the things that we looked at is the condition of La Center Road, and there's been a lot of construction going on and just repaired a lot of La Center Road, but one section that hasn't been repaired is the westbound lane from the bridge up to Timmer Road. And I'm sure you've all seen that there's some dips in there. Well, I talked about this. We had a workshop a month and a half ago with TIB, and I talked about this with them, and they said that there's money available for things like this for overlays. So what I've looked at is there's a section of pavement about 160 feet that really needs to be excavated and replaced, and that's just one lane, one travel lane. So what I'm proposing is that we apply for a TIB grant for a Small City Preservation Program to overlay all of that lane except for that short section, 160 feet or so, that really needs to be excavated and repaired. So the Small City Preservation does not include any kind of excavation and repair. It's just an overlay, just a maintenance type of project. So what I'm recommending is that we apply for a grant this year, which it would be the following year when we can use it through TIB, and see if we can get money to overlay, which is around $156,000, and then pay for along with that is pay for the reconstruction part of it, which is about $28,000 or so. That's what I estimated. So the application, what I'm asking for is recommendation or our authorization to apply to this TIB grant. Now, they have a 5% match requirement, which if you calculate that from what the project is, it's around $7,800. But if the city pays for $28,000 of improvements, that includes that covers the match. So, but one of the things I also think is that we could also use that cost for the reconstruction for the pavement preservation next year and pay for it with pavement preservation. So thereby possibly using all the funding that we have if we get a TIB grant to fix this road. So the request is to apply for that TIB preservation grant. Are there any questions?
What happens if we don't get the grant?
Then we have to figure out something else to do next year, because it's something needs to be done on that road. It's getting a lot of cracking, which is mostly surface attrition. When we've done overlays in the past along the center road, it seems to have worked. There's back in 2014, I think we did an edge drain project, which did some subsurface drainage, but it did some repairs and just spot repairs of some of those failed areas, and it seemed to have held really well before the construction was done with the new casino. So if we don't get it, we'll have to look at that next year. But it seems reasonable to at least try and get some money for it.
John, I have a question. I want to digress for just a minute.
Yeah.
Jump back on the last topic about the county routing extra heavy vehicles through town to avoid the bridge.
Yeah.
The Center Road and Pacific Highway, I don't think is not a state highway or a federal highway, but can we impose a fee on vehicles over a certain weight?
Well,
because they're beating up the road.
We actually can, and we can implement something. I don't know if it would go over very well, because you'd have to be able to track that. You'd have to be able to permit all of those loads, which means you'd have to have signs out there to tell drivers, the trucks, that they need to come in for a permit or somehow be permitted through the city. But that's possible. I think I talked about this when we had a workshop before the roundabout, and it didn't go over well, as I remember, and I talked about it before. And so there's a lot of these truckers have to come in for permits in various jurisdictions already for large loads, heavy loads. So it is a possibility. It's just it's how to track it. It's really difficult, because then you have to have a permit process in place, and then issue permits and track it and make sure they're following that. But the best scenario would be for the state to fix the bridge, and then this county wouldn't have to bypass loads through the center.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Well, if we don't apply for this grant, we won't get anything, will we? Back to the current topic.
Yeah, well, yeah, but we might as well. That's my thought. Might as well try it.
I appreciate the report, Tony. Yeah, and Tony has actually spent an awful lot of time and hard work on putting these kinds of things together, attending meetings with other county agencies to get this all put together. A lot of work goes into this, so I appreciate all your efforts. And again, we have to apply. We'll find out next year, and if we're not successful then the city will have to look up alternatives to get that road fixed, because it's definitely needed some repairs.
Yeah.
But so this is really for information primarily, but we also would like to get a recommendation from the council to go ahead and apply for the grant. So there's a motion on the screen there. If I could get a motion.
I move to authorize city staff to submit the TIB application for the Small City Preservation Project for La Center Road for 2019 with an estimated budget amount of $28,000.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to authorize city staff to submit the TIB application for the Small City Preservation Project for the Center Road for 2019 with an estimated budget amount of $28,000. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you again, Tony.
Thanks, Tony.
So next on the agenda, the City Council will be going into an executive session. This evening, the Council will be discussing labor relations pursuant to RCW 42.30.140. This is for information only. No action will be taken at the end of the executive session, and I would suspect it'll last for about 20 minutes. So So I'll ask everybody to please leave the chamber so the council can go into executive session. Let's come out of executive session. Again, no action was taken. So with that being said, can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
It's been moved and seconded to adjourn. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, council.